2023 is looking like it's going to be a really great year for new release books. I have so many that I am so excited about, so let's talk about them. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sam. Welcome. I'm going to talk about my 2023 most anticipated new releases for the year. These are books that I have either already pre-ordered, probably will pre-order, or will go be buying like the day they come out because I am so excited. Most of these are series continuations or my auto by authors, and I just can't wait for some of these. Some of these I have to wait a while for, and it is going to be so hard. So before we get into the 13 books that I'm looking forward to this year, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and the little bell icon will notify you when I post. I post videos on Sundays and Wednesdays around 9 a.m. Let's get into the books. So book number 1 comes out very soon, and I am stoked. I have been waiting 2 years for this book, and that is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in her Alex Stern series. The first book was Ninth House. Basically, this is a dark academia, urban fantasy set at Yale, and it is just so interesting. It's an adult fantasy. It's very dark, but like a really interesting, just like I like dark academia. This is what got me into dark academia, was this book. And it's just, and the ending of that first book was just so hard to wait for the next book, and it's been 2 years, y'all. I can wait no longer, and it comes out on January 10th. I've been waiting for so long. I should preface this by saying these books are in no particular order. They're in the order that I like found them when I was Googling what the new releases for the year were. So the dates are not in order at all. The next book is a book by an auto by author, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. Emily Henry is one of my favorite romance authors. She wrote Book Lovers and Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and I loved all 3 of those books so much. I cannot wait to read the next book. I don't even know what it's about. I don't need to know what it's about. It's by Emily Henry. I'm gonna pick it up. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna love it. It's just, I have never not loved one of her books. Next up is a book that actually came out today. When y'all watch this, it will be yesterday, but today's Tuesday, January 3rd, and we just got The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This is the beginning of a sequel series to The Cruel Prince, which a lot of people loved. It is a YA fantasy set kind of in a world parallel to ours with fairies, and we have kind of like a bully romance in a fantasy world going on in the first series. This series follows the main character's little brother, who is now a prince, and it kind of goes from there. I don't know a whole lot about it. I had very mixed feelings about The Cruel Prince. I really liked the first one, didn't like the second one at all, and then liked the third one again. And I had a really hard time with the bully romance thing. Those I struggle with in general, but I kind of like the nostalgia of it. Like, the more I think about it, the further it gets from when I read that series, the more I like it. So I am interested in reading the sequel series. I might reread The Cruel Prince before I read the sequel series, but I am interested. I don't know that this is like one of my top anticipated reads because I'm a little nervous about it, but it's definitely a book that I've got my eye on that I am interested in this year. Next up, we have another auto by author, and that is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Ali Hazelwood is another favorite romance author of mine. All of her books are centered around women in STEM and their romances, and the books are just so cool. Sometimes the science goes like way over my head, but I think it's kind of fun. I don't know what this book is about either. I don't need to know. I loved both of her other books, so I am trusting her. This book comes out June 13th, so I'm really excited for another summer romance read. I love reading romances in the summer, and I feel like this is going to be a really great one. The next book I already have, and this is super exciting because it doesn't actually come out until next week, but apparently my Fairy Lou book was like an early release, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia to Fairies. I had literally never heard of this. I had no idea until it showed up in Fairy Lou, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cover. This looks interesting, and it sounds so cool. Like, I'm getting fantasy romance vibes. There's like, this girl Emily is writing the first encyclopedia of fairy lore, and there's like an academic rival and secrets, and I'm getting fantasy romance vibes, and I'm excited. Plus, also, like, look at this book. Like, look at this book. Look at this book. I'm obsessed with this book. So, I can't wait to read this. If you don't have Fairy Loot, it comes out January 10th, so not too long of a wait. And I am super excited. I'm gonna try to fit this in this month on top of my TBR because I just really want to. Next up, we have The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Olin Barnes. This is the next book in the Inheritance game cycle. It's kind of like a companion spin-off book, but it's going to be following the brothers in a new mystery, and I really, really liked the first 3 books. Love Jameson, so I'm excited. I don't remember what it's about other than it's a new mystery and the boys are in it, so that was all I needed to know. But that is not coming out until August 29th, so I still have a bit of a wait, and that hurts, like, a lot. Next up, we have A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. This is going to be the 3rd and final book in the 2nd Caraval series, so we have Once Upon a Broken Heart and The Ballad of Never After. I haven't read either of them, but I loved Caraval, and I own the other 2 books in the 2nd series. But I know the first book ended on a cliffhanger, and I'm so afraid that the 2nd one does too, and as excited as I am to read them, I just can't start it until they're all out. I can't do it. I'm nervous. It's about Jax, like, he already makes me nervous, so I'm gonna be waiting to read all of them until the 3rd book comes out. But that comes out on September 12th, so I got a bit of a wait there. Next up, we have A Touch of Chaos by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a continuation of the Touch of Darkness series. The series gets a little bit confusing because we have like 2 series that are going to merge into one. So we have the series from, it's a Hades and Persephone retelling. We have the series from Persephone's point of view, which I have read, like the first 3. And then we have the series from Hades' point of view, which I have not read yet. But then they're supposed to like come together into like both points of view, I think, in this book. So I guess I need to read the ones from his point of view, so that I can like be prepared for the one that comes together. I don't know when it comes out though. I know it comes out in 2023. That's all I got. That's all Goodreads will tell me is 2023. So sometime this year, we're getting that book. Next up is both an auto by author and a series continuation. One of those things excites me a lot, and one of them doesn't. So the next book is One of Us is Back by Karen M. McManus. This is supposed to be the 3rd book in her One of Us is Lying series. I loved One of Us is Lying, and I love Karen M. McManus. She's one of my favorite authors. There's only ever been like 1 book by her that I really didn't like. I have loved all the other ones, but I will say that the 2nd book in One of Us is Lying, One of Us is Next, was weak. It was a lot weaker than the first book, and I didn't enjoy it as much. So I'm a little bit nervous about where the 3rd one is going to go. I also have kind of started to feel like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but all of her books are starting to blend together. Like the storylines are all very similar. She definitely has like a formula, and so her books are starting to feel very formulaic. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like the formula works. It works. And I have enjoyed almost every single one so far. But they are starting to all feel very, very similar, so I am interested in how this one's going to go. We'll see. But this one comes out July 25th. Next up, we have The Ruined by Renee Audier. This is book 4 in the Beautiful series. I really liked the first 3. The 3rd one took a very interesting shift. The first one, I've always described it as like historical Twilight. It's like if you take Stalking Jack the Ripper and mix it with Twilight. Like, it feels paranormal, it's got a little bit of mystery in there. The 3rd one takes a much heavier fantasy feel. And, like, I know paranormal's technically fantasy, but, like, those feel different to me. Like, a paranormal romance and a fantasy romance feel like 2 different genres to me. The 3rd one felt much more fantasy than paranormal, and I can't explain why without giving things away, so I won't. So I'm very interested to see the direction that the 4th book takes. I think it's going to be the last book. I think. So we'll see how that one goes. We have a lot more points of view than we did in book 1, so we'll see. And that one actually does come out fairly soon. It comes out on February 14th, so I am on the lookout for that. Next up, we have Chasm by Stacey McEwen. This is the second book in the Galatian trilogy. First book was Ledge. I just read it recently, like last month. Really enjoyed it, but there was an intense cliffhanger at the end of that book. And I just know that between now and September 12th, I will be dying daily. So there's that. But basically, this series is a very typical fantasy romance, and it's set in a world where our main character lives in this little village on like the ledge, where there's like this big chasm on one side and then like a sheer rock wall on the other side, so they are trapped there. And once a season, the Galatians, which are like winged creatures, come and take one or more of the humans as like a sacrifice. I think it's multiple humans as a sacrifice. But then one of the half Galatian, half humans ends up rescuing our main character when she is taken. And it kind of spirals from there. Very typical fantasy romance. If you like fantasy romance, you're probably going to like this one, but go into it being aware that it is not doing anything new. And depending on how you feel as a reader, I like that. Fantasy romance is a comfort genre of mine. I like the tropes of fantasy romance. If you like the tropes of fantasy romance, you will like this book. If you get annoyed at things being like the tropes of the genre and it feeling very similar to a lot of other fantasy romance books, this feels very similar to a lot of other fantasy romance books, but that's kind of like the point in my opinion. So do with that what you will. And then the next two. The next two are both by the same author, and they are kind of part of the same series-ish, but like not really. So let me explain. We're going to talk about Jennifer L. Armentrout and what she is publishing this year. Blood and Ash, Flesh and Fire. Those are her two series right now that kind of go together. So Flesh and Fire is the prequel series to Blood and Ash. And all of the titles are starting to blend together at this point. But you also have to read them in like a weird order. So like you read the first 3 books of Blood and Ash, and then you read the first book of Flesh and Fire. Then you read book 4 of Blood and Ash, and then the second book of Flesh and Fire. And from there, I don't even know. So the next book to come out in July is going to be A Soul of Ash and Blood. And supposedly, that's actually book 4.5 of Blood and Ash. It's supposed to be book 1, but from Hawke's point of view. So, I don't know how interested I am in that one, actually. I mean, I am interested, but like I would much rather continue the story than go back and read a different point of view. Like the War of Two Queens, I need more. I need more. And I'm not willing to wait another year for it. We are also supposed to be getting A Fire in the Flesh, which is going to be book 3 in the Flesh and Fire series. I don't know exactly the order that you're supposed to read these in. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming 4.5, so obviously you read the Hawke's point of view book after War of Two Queens, which makes sense. Usually she just writes them, you read them in publication order, so I'm not sure if you need to read the Hawke point of view in order to read the next Flesh and Fire book, but I'm gonna find out, because I'm gonna read both, because I'm obsessed. But wow, I wish it was the next book of Blood and Ash, because I need more after the War of Two Queens. But I do really like Flesh and Fire too. I actually kind of like the love interest in that book a little bit better than the love interest in Blood and Ash, so I'm not complaining about a third book in that series at all. So as far as release dates for those, the Hawke book comes out July 18th, and the A Fire in the Flesh book comes out December 12th. So I got some waiting to do there. But I'm still reading the second book of, I just started the second book of Flesh and Fire, so that will keep me occupied for a couple of days. So those are the 13 books that are on my radar for 2023. Let me know what books you're excited about. I'm not super great about keeping up with new releases that aren't by authors I recognize or series that I'm continuing. So if there is like a debut author or an author I haven't read yet that has a new book coming out that you think I should be looking for, let me know down in the comments. Or if there's a book that you're really excited about, let me know. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye!